Oh, there we
No,
go.
there we go. We're live. Yay. Okay.
Hey, we're live here. Jaimie, you're live. I'm live. We're all alive. Great to be on the call. We might be a little early here, but I know we'll just give people a chance to kind of get started joining us.
Yeah. There might be a slight delay too, so
There may very well, because I know, some of these, when it comes to Facebook Live, sometimes there is a delay. So it looks like I'm just checking on Facebook, though. I'm sorry for this, whoever, or if anybody's watching right now, but well, we just don't want you to miss anything. So I'm just checking on Facebook, and we are live according to Facebook.
Yeah.
So that's great. And now I gotta find you again. Where was I?
So we have some.
There you are.
Here I am.
I'm back. There's Jaimie. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm Mark Kanty, and my colleague Jaimie Skultety. And we're here to answer questions, obviously, and to get some participation from the group. Hopefully, I know this is our first call. We those of you who responded to our survey, everyone on our list, whether you responded or not, we appreciate you very much. If you did respond, we're going to go through those specific questions. If you didn't, feel free to put a question in the chat, or go ahead and find our email and respond to it. Jaimie, maybe you can help me out. What did we call? What was this?
Burning business question. I don't remember the subject line, but anyway, if you have questions, just post them here.
Post them here, and then look for our emails. We're going to update you on what's going on. So I am just going to share my screen here. And by the way, full disclosure, we're working with different platforms. We used to just go straight. Actually, we tried going from Zoom and doing Facebook Live via Zoom. So we've done that. We've done straight Facebook Live on Facebook. And then we came across, thanks again, kudos and a shout out to Rick Sheffrin, who turned me on to a program called StreamYard. So StreamYard.com, exactly the way it sounds. Jaimie and I had a look at that. Jaimie played around with it, and we decided this looked great because it allows us to broadcast on multiple platforms. So hopefully right now you're able to see us on Facebook, and you're able to see us on YouTube. And then we're looking at StreamYard allows more, but right now we don't want to be spread too thin. So we're just focusing on those platforms right now as we get used to StreamYard and work with this. But a great little program. And as a result, we can see, and this is where we have to apologize. Our learning curve is bouncing between different platforms. So whether you're on YouTube, or you're on a Facebook page, or you're in our Facebook group, the messages are going to appear in different areas. So that's where Jaimie and I are still kind of muddling through that, and hopefully we got a handle on where your questions might be showing up, and that we don't miss any from you.
And if you happen to catch this after we're live, like as a recording, yes, feel free to post. We will get your notifications that you posted a question or a comment. So, participate even if we're not live at the time that you watch this.
For sure. We want to continually have questions from you. And that's what we're here for, is to help you out, to help you get over the hump, to be colleagues, to help you not feel like you're alone and isolated. There's a whole community of us here. So let me just find my button to share. And here it is right here. And I am going to share a screen. And bear with me a sec while I find the screen that I'm looking for.
Okay.
And I believe it's this one right here. And there we go. I can see it. Can you see it, Jaimie?
Yep, I can see it.
Great. So I just wanted to share this with you. This would be the email, and we'll be able to see the subject line here, I think. This was actually a test email. But yeah, the last email we sent was, did you win the $50? So if you're looking for this particular email, or you missed it, that's something you can look for. Just search, for $50, and you'll probably see.
So that's assuming they're on our mailing list. Not everybody is. So again, just post your questions in the chat, and we will be happy to address that.
Yeah, and jump on our list, and we'll let you know. So we do this from time to time, and we want you to know that we value your time. So this is no joke. We're giving out $50 to people who respond, not to everyone, obviously, because we're hoping that we get a long list. We got a pretty good list this time, but to 3 people, we're going to draw randomly from the list of respondents to give you $50. So I'm really hoping that Todd and Sharon and Lene are on the call or are going to join us at some point in time, or maybe they'll see this and we'll tag you, by the way, so that you know that we're talking about you in here. So let's look though at some of these questions that people have asked us that you have all sent in to us. So I think we had about 20 questions altogether, give or take. And the question was, what are your burning questions about building or scaling your business, or problems that you might be experiencing that you're just having a challenge getting over? So here are the list of questions, and we're going to start to tackle these. What we're going to do right now, depending on who joins us, is we're not going to go crazy on this. We're going to spend about an hour. We'll go till about 10 o'clock, depending on your questions in the chat, because we're happy to hang around longer to handle live questions and people who are here. So by all means, if you're here, give us a thumbs up, let us know, and jump right in and ask any question you like. It doesn't have to be related to the question in the list. We're happy to go off script here, if you will. I mean, we'll consider this our script for the day. And we're happy to answer any question that's popping up for you at all. But without further ado, Jaimie, unless you can see anything in the chat right now,
No, let's just get started.
let's go ahead and get started. So the first question we had, and I'm not going to bother putting names to these questions. You know who you are, I hope, if you ask these. And chances are, we know this as a rule. If one person is asking it, then 100 people are thinking it, at least. So the thousands of people would probably be thinking most of these questions. So the first question was, what are the steps to move from a 6-figure business to a 7-figure business? So first of all, I'm not going to ask for clarification because I don't even know if you're on the call or not. But the first thing you need to identify is, are you talking about gross revenue or net revenue? Those are 2 very different things. You might already be in a position where you could move from 7 figures to or 6 figures to 7 figures in terms of gross revenue if your expenses are unwieldy and they're all over the place. So I'm going to talk more about this in a generic way, and Jaimie and I are both going to pitch in. And let me find a visual on this that I wanted to share, and I'll see if this is it. Here it is right here. Okay. So we need to understand, in order to scale or in order to build any business, the number one thing to this works. This is a kind of a rule or a law, if you will, is anybody that's been able to build anything of value, of size, of scale, knows that time is more valuable than money. So they invest proportionately. We see this over and over again. And I can tell you that if you're stuck and you're not making any revenue in your business, and you're stressed by that, and you're going, gee, I don't know what's going on, I don't know how to make some money, the number one thing you have to look at is, are you valuing money more than time? Because that's I would say in 100% of the cases, when Jaimie and I come across somebody who's stuck in their business and they're just not able to get it off the ground, or they're not able to get it to a consistent full-time income, it's because they're trying to save money. And that's a challenge. You can't grow something or build something by saving. Let me see if I can put an analogy or metaphor to this. Let's say I want to make a loaf of bread. And I make a loaf of bread, and it's not big enough to feed my whole family. If I look at that and I say, gee, how can I save ingredients? How can I use less flour, less water and everything? I'm never going to be able to feed my family. I'm never going to be able to get a bigger loaf. Instead, what I need to do is use more ingredients and put more in. So if you're looking at growing or scaling your business, the number one thing you need to look at is how you're using your time and how you're investing your money to expand your leverage, to expand your time. So let me now put that in a more specific example. Time management in a business. If you're stuck in the DIY trap, you've only got 24 hours in a day. You can't make that day any bigger if you keep doing everything yourself. So you need to expand that time. How do you get more than 24 hours in a day? By leveraging time and getting other people to do things for you. And that's where you start to invest in those things. So graphically, let me kind of show you how this works when you're building a business. Is when you start out and you're building a business, particularly as a coach or as a professional and expert that's moving into the online space or building, this. I mean, if you're a professional, you're a coach, you're a consultant, you're a Jaimie, give me some examples. You're a psychologist, you're a counselor. Who else?
Well, we talk about executives in transition. So
an executive who is moved out of the executive or moving out of the executive space and wants to build their own business. You people all know, thank you, Jaimie, that if you're working in that space as a professional, you know that you can't get everything done yourself. You typically would have an assistant. You would have maybe maybe even a VA, you might have a couple of assistants, you would have colleagues, you would have partners, you would have different roles in the business that people play. The same thing with your coaching business or the business that you've launched. You need to think about the roles that you're playing. So when you start out, you are the investor, the business owner at the top here. You're also the president and the business builder. You're the manager and the coordinator, and you're the employee and the technician. Now, if you're a solopreneur, I have another graphic actually that I can't find it. I was telling Jaimie that, as usual, one of my weaknesses. I'm not a great organizer when it comes to my files, but I have another one that highlights this even more. But let's imagine a line right down here before we go to this next column. Most people, can you even see my cursor here, Jaimie?
Yeah.
Can you see it moving?
Yep.
Like here. Okay, good. Yeah, look at that. You can see that.
Yeah,
Okay, good. So most people who are in the coaching consulting space will be in this first column, meaning your employee technician is the majority of your role. And that's probably where you want to be. That's what you're passionate about. You're excited about helping people.
Well, I think you mean people who are new in that space. That's what I'm envisioning as you're talking is.
Yeah, I actually know people who have been in it for decades and they stay in this column. And let me tell you why. This is really a really important distinction.
Okay.
And thank you, Jaimie, for bringing that up, because this is where new people get into trouble. Is they want to move through to the right. But the challenge is, and let me tell you a story here. Let me put this in a story mode. I start as a coach and I go, you know what? All I ever want to do is serve and help people. I am most alive and happiest when I'm face to face with a client and I'm helping them. And then they start to scale their business. Whoops, sorry about that. So they start to do less of that and they need to do more of this. And they get a little grumpy. And not only that, but their business isn't as good as they thought it would be. Then they keep moving to the right. And look what happens to that role. At the end, they end up doing very little coaching and they're absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
What they've done is created a job for themselves that they hate because they never wanted to be a business builder, a manager coordinator, somebody that is a true entrepreneur that really is not too interested in being hands-on in the delivery. So this is this is the scaling from 6 to 7. This is really good. And Jaimie, thanks so much for sparking that thought, because this is the first question you need to ask yourself is, do I want to build a big business? Do I even want to scale to that level? So if you want a business that's worth millions, you're not going to be able to do it by staying in column 1. In other words, you're going to have to develop some of these skills,
Well,
or you're going to have to hire for them. But
so
typically, you're going to move in this direction and you're going to find yourself being more and more moving into the business development, if you will, the business skills, as opposed to being the head technician as you scale your
Well,
business.
I'm envisioning that whoever posted that question, if they've reached six figures, like I would almost, I'm going to take a wild guess here that a lot of people that would be watching this maybe haven't gotten to that level yet. So I'm
Yeah, like
thinking,
anybody that's not at six figures is
right,
obviously struggling. I mean, they're
right.
in this,
So if this
yeah,
person who posted the question has already reached six figures, I'm thinking they probably might have some of these key components in place, like you're
yes,
talking about. Like they probably have a VA and they probably have staff. So, I'm trying to think of, and I've got one thing to kind of suggest as to, getting to the next level, but I don't want to take away from what you're saying. This is all very valuable. I just wanted to acknowledge that the person who wrote this question might be like, I've already got that in place. So
yes.
like I'm already investing, like I'm there. I've already got,
Yeah.
team.
So
Yeah.
the point of the graphic and the point of the lesson here is that it's coming back to DIY. There's you can easily get to, in fact, you need to get to six figures in order to even have a proper business.
Right.
Within the first column, where you're playing this way, where you're playing that, most of your time is serving clients in a coaching consulting role. You're managing and coordinating a lot of your material. And this is where, like Jaimie says, you might have a VA in place that's helping you with this. And then these key roles, you're the chief investor and business owner and the president and business builder. So you're taking those roles on as well. So you can do this quite comfortably, in the six figure category. But when you
Right.
want to go to seven figures, then you're going to have to look at expanding your role in these areas. You can't hire somebody to build your business for you. So that would be the concept of that would be, if you were going to hire somebody to build a business for you, that's where you would buy a franchise, right? Franchises are getting somebody else to do the business building activity, and you're just plugging yourself in as the manager, coordinator, and the employee technician and the investor, right? So you want to move time to the right as you see your time allocation moves to your right. And you could go, if you want to go to eight figures, you want to go to nine figures, you're going to be down here at the very end. You're going to be running the business. So my point, the underlying point here of all of this is pausing. And this is why Jaimie and I always start with clarity. We always start with really getting clear on where you want to go, because most of the time people will come to us and they say, I know exactly what I want. I'm 100% clear. And after we've spent a few days or a few weeks with them, it's all changed because they're not clear at all. They don't realize that to be down here in this role, making 8, 9 figures, you're working 12 hours a day. And you're working because you love it. And you're not working dealing with clients. You're working at being an investor, at building your business, at looking at opportunities, at hiring and working with your team and getting them to perform. That's where you want to be. And sometimes, often, there's a disconnect there with people. So that's the key. That I know I've been really rambly about this one particular question, but the key here is just deciding what you want. And it's one of the things I really, the reason I'm hitting home on this so much is so many people we work with come to us and say, what makes me most alive, what I'm most passionate about, what I enjoy the most is the face-to-face contact with a client. And if that's the case, don't let yourself get disillusioned or discouraged or upset by that. Don't think that that's somehow less value, because there's lots of people who are very, very effective in their role, and they've got a really nice gig going here in this first column. Okay, a really nice gig. If you want to build an enterprise, then you need to start moving to the right. So that's kind of my point here.
So if I may,
Yes.
because I had to think on this question too before our call, and what was coming up for me was, again, I feel like this person may already have some of these understandings in place. So I'm glad that we're able to share this, because it's really key to you getting to the six-figure level and then certainly beyond. So this is all very important. knowledge to have. My thinking for this particular person in, giving a practical strategy just to think about, and of course we don't have the benefit of having a two-way conversation with this person, but I will just throw out there, I'm thinking for you that you might need a, higher ticket program, sort of an advanced level. It's taking the clients that you're already working with or have worked with and, ramping that up to be a higher ticket where you're giving even more benefit, even more value. And
Yeah.
then you're not having to go and seek new customers, right? So you can just, build on what you've already started. Mark and I we take our clients on a journey. There's, our core 90-day program, but typically they stay with us longer because we move into advanced trainings on many other things. There's so much knowledge that we want to share with people. So that would be sort of my input on that question is, think about creating a super uber high ticket, but also super uber valuable program that people would just not even dream of saying no to. And if they already love you, then they're in. So that would be my suggestion to you. I hope that helps.
Great. So that's and obviously a very, like we said, a very broad and vague question. So we don't know. We don't know. You might be slogging it out, with a $500 or $1,000 product and running out of time. You just, you just don't have the ability. So you need a higher ticket. So leveraging, again, it comes back to leveraging your time, and you can leverage your time in different ways. So we don't know. We don't have a clue as to where you're at. This might all be new to you. You might not understand roles. You might not understand business development at all. You might also be in a situation where you've just been fortunate. You've really been hammering it out and you've managed to, build a business. We often talk about the fact that, and let's get real here, when it comes to building, we work with people who want a full-time professional coaching, consulting practice.
Right.
So if you're not at six figures, you're not there yet. You don't even have a business yet. Because the reality is, if we think about the market value and we think about what we could be doing or what we could be paying if we went out and got the proverbial job, we would be making, at least six figures doing that in a professional capacity. So, that's kind of a starting point, if you will. And then you want to move beyond that, because building a business means you're going to have expenses to go along with that. The very best that I know of in the industry, are maybe at a 50. Now, people who are really working it right now, I would say, a very attractive place to be in would be a 50% profit margin. Meaning, if you want to make $100,000, then you need to be bringing in a revenue of $200,000. And that's probably somebody that's a little more seasoned, who's been at it a while. Like, that's kind of, a business that's growing and in more of a growth phase and a more mature phase. If you're just starting out, your profit margins might be down in the 10%, 15% range, or even lower.
Right. And the more you make, the more you're going to spend. And that's just the way that it should go, really. I mean, you should always be investing. It should never be like, all right, I've reached this level. I no longer need to have coaches help me. I no longer need assistants to help me. I no longer need to pay for any marketing. Like, the more you make, the more you should be spending in your business, but you want to spend wisely, not saying just go out.
So it's ROI and thinking of it as a business
investment.
Yeah. And that's what's critical about this, is starting to think about it as a business, because, and again, just from experience, the people we talk to, a lot of people we talk to, it's like, deer in the headlights. When we even suggest, when we say, well, if you sell your services for, say, $1,000, how much do you think you're going to keep in your pocket at the end of the day? And they look at us, deer in the headlights thing, saying, what do you mean, $1,000? And we go, what business do you know of that can operate? You have to have a computer. There's an expense right there. You have to have an internet connection. So you have to start thinking of it like a business. And when you start to think about it that way, things shift for you. The other thing is to look at it as an investor. So this is where a lot of people, particularly if you're a professional or an executive in transition, and you're moving from a job, where you had a regular paycheck, into this environment. This is a different environment. You have to change. When you have a job, you think about savings. You think about, boy, I got this much coming in consistently every month from my employer. How can I save some money for a trip? How can I save something for maybe a major purchase? Maybe you're going to upgrade your house or whatever. It's all about saving, right? When you're in business, you have to put on your investor hat. So when you put on your investor hat, now you're thinking about ROI. You're not thinking about saving at all. You're actually thinking about investing. How can I put more money in so I can get more money back out again?
Right.
So if a business were able to return you $2 for every dollar invested, that would be a pretty hot investment.
Right. It's a difference between having in what I would call a dreaded expense. Like, it's like you pay your utilities, like, got to pay that light bill again to have lights, It's
Yes.
like one of those things where you go, I'm not really getting a return, but at least I have light. But with a business, we're talking about investing in your business so that, as Mark is hammering home on, ROI, you want to get a return on that investment. And
Yeah.
so you want to be very selective on how I said the more you make, the more you spend, but it should be the more you make, the more you invest.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
really the term that I want to.
So that you increase because if somebody were to walk up to you off the street and say, hey, I've got a great investment here. If you give me $1,000, then I'll give you $2,000 back. You're going to do that all day long. You're going to actually say, wait a minute, let me do my due diligence here. And I have confidence in this, which hopefully you have 100% confidence in yourself and your service. And you could say, I don't want to. Could I give you 10,000? Could I give you 100,000? Could I get as much money as I possibly could? Would you still double my money? Of course you would. You do everything you could to pour more into it, and that's the same thing with your business. The more confident you are with your business model, the more you want to invest, and every little bit you think of. So let's come back to the time is more important than money thing. Think about this for a minute. I had somebody left a comment in one of the groups that I was in just a couple of days ago. And they said, I'm having a trouble getting my pixel to work on my pages. I got them all set up and I got all these errors all over the place. I spent a whole day on this. Can somebody give me some direction? Can somebody give me some advice on this? And my advice was very plain and simple. What do you think my advice would be, Jaimie?
Go get somebody to do it for you.
Hire somebody to fix it.
Yeah.
Because you already wasted a day. Now you're going to waste another day. What is your time worth?
Right.
You need to know what your time is worth.
And you're hoping that somebody's going to jump in for free and help you. And some people want to be helpful, but they really can't help you just from here, I'm just going to dump into Facebook what you should do or what I can do for you. They're going to need a lot more access and all of that. So just the point is, go and pay somebody to do it. How much is it going to cost you? How much is it costing you to do it on your own or to struggle or stress? How much sleep did you lose over the last couple nights thinking about it? It's not worth it.
Let's say that your time is worth $500. Sorry, your time is worth $500 an hour, and you spent 8 hours trying to fix this problem. You just wasted $4,000.
Yeah.
So and yet we get people all the time that freak out and that go, "Oh, this expert, that I could have hired. Oh, he was way too expensive. He would have cost me $250." And you go, so you're willing to waste $4,000 to save $250?
Yeah.
And not only that, but the expert would fix it in 5 minutes.
Right.
So how much business did you lose? Because your pixel wasn't firing day after day after day after day. So your funnel wasn't working. So your follow-up wasn't working. So your retargeting wasn't working. How many potential clients slipped away because you didn't address the problem quickly and invest in getting the problem done so you could save time? So you could get it done in 5 minutes instead of 8 hours, 16 hours, instead of struggling in your DIY trap.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Let's move on to the next question. I can see that we're going to do a few of these to get through our list. Maybe we'll get faster at it. But we want to give you value. We hope you're getting value from this conversation. I guess if you're not and you're tuning out, then I would suggest that you're looking for a quick fix. And I'm going to be really blunt here. Jaimie loves it when I do this. Go buy a lottery ticket, because that's where you're going to win the quick fix that's going to make you successful in an instant with a 2-minute solution. Second question here. How can I help parents and children build solid relationships? Great question. I think the very best thing that you could do would be to build a really good practice that helps serve parents and children. Now, I'm assuming that you have a program or an idea, or you've got some training around how to build solid relationships for parents and children. So if you've got that in place, that's great. I'm sure there's some refinements that can take place there. But the only way to make refinements is by getting out into the marketplace and actually serving parents and children. In other words, creating a business model around that need. And Lord knows there's lots of need for that. Great market to be in, by the way. It's endless. It will never go away. There'll always be parents and there'll always be children, and there'll always be relationship challenges. So you're in a great place. You've got limitless potential in terms of building a successful practice. So the question now is, do you want to build a practice around that idea
I was
and
going to say,
whatever it is that you have? And Jaimie, I know, has some personal experience in this area.
I
So
do.
let her speak to this point.
Well, I mean, yes, I do. I wasn't planning on mentioning that, but that's okay. I mean, happy to share. I have hired a coach for my teenage son, and very happy to have invested at that level to do that. And it's wonderful. And so, yes, as Mark said, that's always going to be a thing. So Mark was talking about building a practice around that. That's certainly great. And he touched on it, but I want to really highlight what was coming up for me is to build a program around that. So obviously that is your area of expertise. So can you build a program around that takes the parents and the children on sort of a journey? We like to call it a roadmap that will take them through from point A to point B. What is the transformation? How are you going to get them that transformation? So that would be my suggestion, is to build a program around that, and of course your business. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think it's important. One of the things that Jaimie and I always talk about, and I just want to qualify that because some of you might not be used to our language and what we speak of. But when we talk about building a program, we're talking about a very light draft, a sketch, because a lot of people get stuck in this trap again where they want to build the perfect program, and they spend all their time investing in building out
right.
this amazing program and every little detail, and then they go, nobody's buying it. Oh, maybe I should fix module 3 a bit because nobody's buying it. And the challenge is you can't fix anything until you get somebody to go through it. So
Absolutely.
I would add to Jaimie's comment in saying, sketch out a program and then do everything you can to get somebody through it as quickly as possible.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't mean to say, this is a good point. Don't go building a program and then expect to sell it. Build an outline of your program, like Mark is saying, and make sure that that's something that will resonate with people, and then get a client and build it as you're working with that client, and you'll start to see, and it'll start to come together, and that outline will become more firm, and exactly what you're teaching you'll inform your program based on the experience that you have with your first several clients, right? And then you start to build it out. Mark and I, we spent quite a long time building out programs that really, we ended up kind of scrapping because, like, oh, well, our clients really need this more so. So then we kind of dumped some things and started over. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, Mark. Like, build a program, but
Yeah.
don't go, like, we always talk to people who are like, well, where are you stuck? And they go, well, I'm building a program, or I have a program and nobody's buying it. Well, you kind of put the cart before the horse. We want to make sure that you can sell your idea, your transformation, and then you can build that out. You already have the expertise. You know where to draw from to build
Yes.
out your big program.
And as Jaimie and I, and she just, disclosed to you too, is we're constantly, sometimes we're very often, actually, I think in every case, when we're going through a program with clients, we're changing it on the fly.
Yeah.
Based on the feedback we're getting, we're going, oh, wow, we didn't realize it would go in this direction. Let's add this component in, or let's take this component out, or let's move them, instead of doing this next, let's move module 7 to 5 position, because that's really a better place for it based on the way people are learning and growing and changing. So
Yeah.
you're going to do it on the fly. So what I would suggest, when it comes to that idea of building a program, start with, what is it? And I think Jaimie brought up a really good point, is people think, and this is something we come across, oh, I've got a great program, I built it all out, now I got to sell it. You're never going to sell it because you're taking the wrong perspective. You're trying to push it on people.
Right.
Instead, find out what people want. So when you say I help parents build solid relationships, well, what's the burning question behind that? What's the problem? What's the goal? that they have first in their terms. So figure out what people want, then provide a solution to that. Sketch out your solution to that. Again, many times now, obviously, Jaimie and I work primarily with coaches and some consultants as well. Is one of the things we find over and over again when people first come to us, we say, well, what's your solution? They say it's $500 an hour. And we go, that's not a solution, that's a fee. Yeah, well, I'll work with you for $500 an hour. And what are you working on? Any problem you've got.
Oh yeah, and it's indefinite too. It's like, well, how long are you going to work with them for? Well,
Yeah.
as long, I'll give them like 12 sessions for a certain amount of money, and so it's not about how much time each session is and all of that. It's about getting the result for your client. Like the teenage coach that I work with for my son, he works until people get a result. That's how he works. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm saying it's something. Just think about the results that you're bringing and how you can accomplish that with people.
And
what
really
the time
great
frame is.
word, Jaimie. Thanks so much. Like that's a great word, is a result. People aren't coming to work with you. They're coming to get a result.
Yes.
So can you clearly identify the result that they're looking for? Can you clearly identify what that means? Like, what does solid relationships mean? And also, what's your language? So if you were to walk out into the marketplace to families, parents, and children and say, hey, would you like a solid relationship? They'd probably kind of look at you a little weird. They'd say, no, thanks. But I would like some milk and bread. What is it? What does that mean? Dig deeper. What is the benefit? What's in it for me? And speak in those terms, right? So what does a solid relationship mean? To me, it means I'm less conflict, less fighting, maybe, less fear, sleeping better, more laughter. What are those outcomes? What are the results that people are looking for? And then key on that. And that's what people are going to be interested in, is what they're interested in. Yeah.
Identifying those problems, like Mark just said, what are the things that they are struggling with so that you can help them to get to the result that they want. So you kind of have to work a little bit reverse engineering, if you will. But nobody's, as I was mentioning just a minute ago, nobody's buying your program because you're giving them 12 coaching sessions, unlimited email support, and, 2 supports by text. I mean, whenever we talk to people, I say, tell me about your program when we first consult with somebody, and, assuming they have a program, and it's always, I'll say 99% of the time, it's, well, they get, a certain amount of coaching sessions and a certain amount of support in this way. That's not what people are buying. They're buying the result. They're buying the transformation.
Yes, exactly. They're buying that destination that they want to get to. So, for example, when it comes to why would somebody hire a coach, and I'm going to just do this kind of hypothetically, but Jaimie, you can let me know if this resonates with you or not. Why would somebody invest serious money in a coach for their teenage child? Might they be thinking, I want to give my child every opportunity to become the most they can become, to have the happiest, most joyful life?
Yes.
So when you put it that way, when you say, instead of saying, hey, would you like a solid relationship with your teenage son? You know what? I got a pretty solid relationship. But if you said, is it important to you that your teenage son become the most that he can become, that he have a joyful, happy life? Then people would be nodding, right?
Yeah, because I already have that great relationship, like you're saying. So it is about, there's a component that I just, like you said, I'm a stand for his success in life. So that's why I would invest, and that's what he gets from the program, and that's what I see, so that's what I want.
And that loops us kind of back to the first question, because how do you get to that high ticket? When you put it that way, is that not a priceless solution? How many people say that they would be willing to lay down their life for their child?
Yeah, I would tell you.
So when you put it in that context, when you talk about big results, like, hey, we're gonna work with you and your teenage child to make sure that they get every opportunity that's in front of them, that they develop all of their strengths, and that they have a happy, joyful life and become the most that they can possibly become. How could you say, nah, $1,000 is too much for that?
There's been a few things in my life, just a full disclosure, where I had, was faced with like it didn't matter to me what the cost was at all. I remember, and I'm not going to tell you specifically what those things were. Coaching for my son was one of those things, I'll tell you that. But there was a couple of times, at least two times in my life, where I can point to and go, I just showed up with, who do I write the check to? It didn't even matter what the price was. Just go ahead and, like, if you can help me with that, I'm in. You don't have to convince me. So you want to have that kind of experience with your clients, is that they go,
Yes.
doesn't even matter what you charge. Like, I get it and I'm in. And what card do you take?
Yeah. And that these are gems, everyone. So like when you think about these first two questions, these are gems because it answers both questions. You can get to 6 to 7, you can get to 7 figures like that if you're providing that kind of transformation.
Yeah.
If you're offering that kind of a solution, that kind of a result to a very specific audience. So really, really important. Let's move up a little here. And first we'll just do a quick check-in. Jaimie, I know you've mastered the board much more than I have, but any comments or questions or anything?
No, not yet. We've got
not yet. Nobody's okay. Yeah. Well, I hope that everyone is finding this helpful, but please do jump in. If there's anything at all that you have that's coming up for you want to make a comment, or participate in the discussion. 3, 4, 5 voices are always better than listening to Jaimie and I. So what strategies are there for getting more clients? Well, that's a loaded question because there are numerous strategies, almost limitless strategies for getting more clients. And we've kind of just alluded to them. We talked about them, right, Jaimie?
Yeah, I mean, that would be like at least a 5-hour conversation.
Yes.
And of course, we're not going to give you all the secrets that we would suggest to our, clients and all of that. But there's a lot of strategies out there to get more clients.
Yeah. And we just talked about a number of them. One strategy for getting more clients, find out what people have a burning desire for. And there are numerous, it doesn't matter. We just talked about parenting, right? We just talked about parenting and children. There's burning desires in that particular place in the world, in the market, if you will. There's burning desires in dating. There's burning desires in how to make money. There's burning desires in how to lose weight. There's burning desires in how to get a better body. There's burning desires in how to dress better. There's burning desires in how to speak differently.
And I would suggest that, you come at this from a, your own experience. What was it if you were, let's say, in a corporate job, what was it, what did you love about that job? How did you help people that you just knew? Or, so apply to your life, appeal to what you know. Like, I'm a marketing strategist. I didn't start out that way, though. I had to learn my way and get there. And I didn't see this as my sort of end game, but you know what? This is where I belong. And it's only from my own experience that led me here. So we would never suggest to you to come up with some kind of coaching business that doesn't align with your own life experience. Like, I don't think you could just make something up and say, okay, I now want to go and, build cars, and I want to teach people how to build cars. I don't know a thing about cars. I wouldn't even know how to change a tire. Swear. So yeah. So
exactly. And so, and again, these are pretty brief answers, so we have to make some assumptions here. So when you say getting more clients, then I would suggest a couple things. There's an assumption here that you've got clients in a particular area. So there's a couple of directions this could go. One of the questions I would ask you was, what are the similarities? Are those clients all from a particular bundle of needs and wants and desires? If not, and this is common, people say, well, not really. I coach this friend of mine who is a stay-at-home mom. I coach this other fellow who is an executive. I coach this person over here who works in the trades and was having trouble, with their finances. So if that's the case, then it's hard to get more clients because you haven't honed in on, and what Jaimie's talking about is really important here. Hone in on what floats your boat. Why are you here? What does your personal history tell you? What lessons did you learn? What burning problems, questions did you answer along the path? What excites you about that? Who else can you help get to where you are because you went through those struggles and those trials and tribulations? Those are ways to kind of get focused on the clients that you want to work. So I would suggest, if you're having trouble getting more clients, then you're probably not tight enough on your audience. You don't know them well enough, and you're not communicating with them well enough, or you would be having a consistent flow of clients.
Yep.
So there was something else I was going to share. Jaimie, anything else while I'm looking for something here? What is the name of it now? You go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, in how to get more clients. I mean, one of the things that we would suggest to you is to, if you're not doing it already, is to start writing content that would address your kind of like what we're doing right now. We're addressing questions and things that come up from our, our scope of people that we're connected with. And so we want to help. And so we try to put out content that's just going to be helpful. And for us, doing Facebook Live where we can actually directly answer questions is great. But think about, if you're not ready to get on camera yet, start writing content, start writing a blog.
Yeah. Writing about the solution, writing about, a number of things here, but one, writing about what you perceive as the need in the marketplace. So everybody has a need, and there's two parts to a need. Everybody's in conflict. I wrote an article on this. Everybody's in conflict, and the conflict is they want something and they don't know how to get it. They can't get it and they're stuck, or they've got a problem that they can't solve. So they either want something, a goal that they want, they can't get, or they got a problem that's inhibiting them in some way and they need to solve that problem. So start to write about that and see what kind of feedback you get. This is where social media can be really powerful. You can throw out questions, you can throw out memes and things like that, and see what kind of engagement you get. How do people respond? You can also reach out to people that you know. You can reach out to a select group. We talk about the digital focus group. So getting a small group of people that you know and say, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Has this ever kept you up at night? Do you perceive this as being something that you had to struggle with? So again, come back to your life, review that first, find out what it is. And that's why I'm sharing this slide here.
Can you make the slide bigger?
I'm going to do that. Let me, I think I can close that.
There you go. Perfect.
Is that a little better?
A little better. It's still, the bottom lines are a little hard to read, but you'll read them to us.
Yes, I will. Thank you. So concentric circles here. What do you love? What you do well? What the world needs, and what the world will pay for. So in other words, what they value, if you will. So if we look at these lines here where they all intersect, if you do what you love and you do it well, you'll be satisfied. You'll have some satisfaction in your job. If you, and I'm just looking for how they intercede here.
And can you also read to us the smaller words inside of the middle of the circles?
Oh, yes. So these intersections, what you love and what you do well, and then is passion, and then what you do well is career. This one, and what the world will pay for is your career. What the world needs and what you love is your vocation. What the world needs and what the world will pay for is this one doesn't
charity?
make sense to me. It says charity.
Okay.
But if they're going to pay for it, it's not really charity. So that one confuses me. I'm not sure why that's in there. So then if we look at the lines coming up, the very middle one where all of these four intersect, it says bliss. Some people refer to this as the sweet spot. So how do you get all four of these? And I would suggest to you that if you're launching out or you're already there, and you're in self-employment, you own your own coaching or consulting business, and you're in that practice, then this is really what you're aiming for. Is you're aiming for bliss. You're aiming for the sweet spot, for joy, for total satisfaction, right in the middle here. Okay, so these are the things to think about. Again, it kind of relates back to a number of the questions that we've talked about, but notice how we're starting with you. If you want to get clients, you need to know about you first.
Yeah.
This is where a lot of people get into trouble. If they're
contentment and fulfillment on the right. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that. And then
Yes.
that center of the bliss that he's referring to.
Just,
So
you know what? Here's a suggestion: is if you want a copy of this, just put a note in the comment section in the chat, and we'll reach out to you and we'll send you a copy of this. We'll PM you with a copy of this slide, if you will. But again, coming back to the point of the question is in order to be externally focused. So in other words, how do I get more clients? You need to first check in with yourself. So it's kind of like, I use this story all the time. It's like, you know, when you get on an airplane and the flight attendant's there and they talk about when the mask drops down, the first thing you're supposed to do is what? Jaimie?
Put the mask on yourself.
Put the mask on yourself, then help other people.
Yes.
The challenge is a lot of people run around thinking, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'll get rewarded for it. And they end up dying because they run out of oxygen. They're lying on the floor dead because they never pause to think, well, maybe I need to really figure me out first. So this is really, really important that you identify these things. And when you do this work and figure this out, then life becomes a lot easier. And it also becomes a lot more exciting and fun. Because then you're working on all of these, you're working in a place of bliss, of joy, of passion. And then these questions like, what are strategies for getting more clients, become part of that journey, become part of the joy, become part of the fun, become part of the process, because you've got these other things working for you. Jaimie?
Yeah, I'm with you. I resonate with all of that, and I agree. Yeah.
Let's move on, and we've got we'll just tackle this one question unless we get any comments or questions in the chat, and then we'll wrap up after this one. So, and then we'll come back next week and we'll do the same thing. We'll continue on our list, and we hope that you join us. Please come. Instead of being, you know, the world right now is full of spectators. We know this on so many different levels. But instead of bringing up a sad level or a tragic level, let me bring up sporting as an example. We're spectators to such a degree that we're willing to pay people millions and millions of dollars, some of them with very little education, and some of them, to be frank, with very little skill. But we're willing to pay them millions of dollars so that we can watch them, so that we can be spectators. And what I want to encourage you to do is get off the sidelines. Start to play. Start to become a participant instead of a spectator. And that's what I want to encourage you to do, is jump in the chat, leave questions, participate in the conversation, because that's where you're going to find growth and satisfaction and joy. So how do I get clients while working full-time in another job? Kind of comes back to the time management issue. You need to figure out how you can fit that time in and leverage your time accordingly. If you're working a full-time job, then you need to really be in a position to be investing in other people's talent and skill. So build a team. Because, hey, let's face it, your day is already full. You're already cranking out probably 8 hours a day at your full-time job. So how do you start to grow a business? Well, you put as much time as you can in, evenings and weekends. Building a business is not easy. I know there's lots of stuff online telling you that you can be lying on a beach sipping rum from a coconut making millions of dollars, and all you have to do is buy their great program and spend 2 minutes a day. But it's all a lie. Any business in the world, particularly to get off the ground, requires intense focus. It requires intense commitment and diving in deep. So put your plan together. Start to figure these things out. Like, what is it that you're uniquely designed to deliver? What is the problem that people are just crying for help with that you have a solution for? Start to map these things out, and then start to look at how you can leverage your time to get the word out. And that's, again, where you're going to have to invest in your business, because you're going to need to really rely on leverage to get the word out and start to grow your business. One of the other things, and I'll turn over to Jaimie. One of the other things you can do is start to kind of do test marketing, if you will, by reaching out to people you know. So starting in an organic space. So if you have if you work at your personal history and you look at the problems that are out there, and I talked about this before, you can start to reach out to those people and say, what are the burning questions you have? What's keeping you up at night, and does it relate to you that you have a solution for? And then you can say, would you be interested in working with me? And you might do this gratis for a few people. You might say, I've got a solution to that problem. I'm still working on it. It's kind of in a draft, rough stage right now, but would you be willing to work with me on this? I want to spend, what I want to do is hone this to be a very specific solution. I want to spend, 6 weeks, set a timeline. I want to spend that, I want to meet with you 6 times and see if we can solve that problem. And I want to kind of take you through my model and see what we get at the end. And all I ask for in return is that you show up for each of our meetings and that you give me feedback. So that's a great place to start if you're looking at this to validate. We call it proof of concept. That would be a great place to start, because once you prove your concept, then you'll be able to look at how you can leverage that, how you can find investors to invest in your concept and your idea and build your business, or quitting your job and going in it full time because you believe that strongly in it. So again, 100 different directions that we could go here. But without speaking to you and just kind of having a one-line response, those are some ideas that come to mind.
Okay, I'm going to put in my 2 cents here. And I know this is going to sound like we're, selling to you. That's not my intention here, but my suggestion would be to get yourself a coach and get yourself somebody or a team of like us. I'll put us aside, but just know that, certainly we would be happy to speak with you and see if it's a fit, but work with somebody who can get you on a path that gives you accountability, that, that you can work your day job, but that you have specific things that they're having you do in a specific time frame and in a specific order. Because I know when I started my business, it was kind of all over the place. I had a million ideas and wanted to run off and do them. And, I was still kind of wrapping up my job, if you will. And it was really tough. So I would definitely suggest that you get somebody who you can be accountable to, that gives you specific things to do in order, and, gives you the puzzle pieces in the order that they need to go in so that you can build that business while you're still working. It'll be hard. I had the benefit, even though I was wrapping up my job, I took many months to build up, to even get like a website and all of that. But, you're full of ideas, but get somebody who you can really, be accountable to is what I would say.
I love that, Jaimie. I think it's critically important, because there's so many questions hidden within this question.
Yeah.
Is, how can I gain clients? Well, what are you trying to do? What are you committed to? And, this is, and again, I want to qualify is that Jaimie and I work with people who are interested in creating a coaching business in a full-time career, not, somebody who is dabbling. And I don't mean to offend anybody here, but if you're thinking, how can I pick up a few extra bucks on the side, as a coach, that's a totally different game that we don't play. We play big, and we play, with commitment, and we play with solving big problems, and we play in the high ticket arena too. We're not in picking up a few extra bucks. We're in building a full-time, high value career that provides priceless solutions to clients.
Yes.
We've got no problem with that first question, somebody wanting to earn 7-8 figures, because we know that they're going to add a zero to those numbers in terms of the value that they're putting out there in the marketplace, because they're solving priceless problems. They're saving lives. They're changing lives. That's the arena that we play in. So just want to kind of qualify that. And I think Jaimie's nailed it, is figure out what you want. Really, that's the big question. What do you really, 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 really want? Do you want to get clients, or do you want to help people? Do you want to get clients, or do you want to build a business that helps people? Very, very different concepts. And a coach can help you walk through this. The ultimate would be, coming back to this is, if I can find it here, is coming back. Oops, sorry. Now I've gone and done it. There we go. My magic mouse on my Mac here does that to me from time to time. But coming back to this idea is is this what you're after? You know, is it, I want to live my life to the fullest and become the most I can become by developing a coaching career and serving clients. Great. If it's, oh, I want to pick up a few extra bucks, not exactly our wheelhouse. There's lots of other places that you can search for that. But identify this first. Work with a coach, as Jaimie says, and figure out what's going to give you joy. How are you going to live a life of bliss? Because you're doing what you love, you're doing what you do well, you're providing what the world needs, and you're also providing something that has high value. In other words, what people will be willing to invest in.
Okay, well, that takes us to the top of the hour. So I guess it's a good place to kind of put a pin here.
Yes.
And look forward to the next time that we can spend together. And again, if you're seeing this after the fact, after the live, please do post your comments anywhere that you are watching this. We will get them and we will respond.
Let me just, before we sign off, as I always do, poor Jaimie, she's used to me. Let me just jump back to this again, just as a kind of a primer is where we got to and what we talked about today. Please, if you have contributions, leave them in the comments. This is dynamic. This is not going to go away. This is going to be posted. So keep the conversation going. We talked about what are the steps to move from a 6 to 7 figure business? How can I help parents and children build solid relationships? And what strategies are there for getting more clients?
One more. We did one more.
Oh, and how do I gain clients while working full-time in another job? So we talked about those. Please participate and give us your point of view, your experience, your perspective, also your questions and issues around those. Do that. Play in the sandbox with us. Participate. Don't lurk. Don't be a spectator, but be right there. And know that we're going to be going through all of these questions. So if you're on the call, if you answer these questions and you're showing up on the call and you're waiting for your particular question, please come back to the next Facebook Live. And we're going to go through and talk about each one of these as we go through them in order. Obviously, based on what we did today, it'll probably take us about, 4 more calls to probably go through all the questions and maybe even more. And hopefully more as you come with your own experiences and questions, and we can bring you on and we can talk and participate.
And we have a lot more topics besides just 4 more calls. We have a whole long list of stuff that we've put together. So these are just the ones that came in from our request, but we have on our own come up with lots of things that we could actually touch on and, give some feedback on to help you.
Yes. So thank you. And watch for, this will be, once this renders, it'll be then on all of those pages and on Facebook and on YouTube, and it'll be there for you to watch and comment too. So appreciate you all being here, and we will see you on the next Facebook Live next week.
Yep.
Thanks, Jaimie.
Thank you, Mark.